Hello, this is Paul with Logix magazine. We're a website for self-taught automation engineers. We cover robotics, automation, programming, integration, and design. And today we're going to talk about proxy blocks. Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? All right, so we're going to get started. This is something you're going to see a lot in the field, more and more, as automation grows in machinery. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at our print. Our print here describes a wiring of field connectors and a proxy block. So you'll see here we have our colors for our cable, right? We have, in this case, is a 2-wire. Pin 3 is unused, right? Got 24 volt, pin 4, no signal, pin 2. Okay, so we have a 3-wire here, right? So we got our wiring configuration and our colors, right? So very simple, right? Positive, neutral, couple of signal wires, right? All right. So in this case, the NO doesn't mean no signal. It's normally open signal, okay? All right. So now what we have a proxy block here. Very simple. So and we're going to talk about this. So essentially, we have 8 M12 connectors, ports there. We have a couple of wires going to each one of them, and they're called out. Okay, the colors are called out for each one of these connectors. Okay, and it's very important when to understand these colors in the wiring scheme that your company is going to use. So down here we have our 24 volt. We have our negative, right? Okay, it gives our brown blue, very standard wiring. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get into a little bit of this. I'm going to do my best to just introduce you to the idea of proxy blocks, field connectors, and cabling. All right. I know it's exciting, isn't it? But it's real important because you're going to run into these things. You are going to run into these things. Okay, so now let's talk here real quick. Let me disconnect this. Okay, this is a proxy block. Okay, so you have 8 different M12 connections there that you can make, and you have one at the top. So the benefit here is nothing more than you are going to be able to connect a device, 8 devices to this. Now you can locate this near 8 devices. So you don't have you can have the OEM whip on that device and put a field connector, which we'll talk about in a minute, and then wire it right to your proxy block. And then you'll have 8 devices, but going back to PLC, you only have 1 cable going back to PLC. That's the benefit. So you got a bunch of local devices, and then way down at the other end of the machine, you just got to run 1 cable. You don't have to run all these cables back down to the PLC, just 1 cable. Now you understand the value of a proxy block. Okay, so now what do we have? To connect to that, if you remember, we have our field connection wiring here, right? And that's what this is, okay? This is a 4-pin, right? And it's field wiring. So what we're going to do is we're going to open this up so you can see what's going on here. So there's really only a couple of pieces to this. So we have the cap on the top, and what that does is tighten it down on that wire. It kind of takes this end of it and it just kind of squeezes it as you tighten it, so it locks it in. Now this is only one version. We'll look at another version here in a minute. Then we have the body. Body just slides down. Now we're into our wiring. So in this case, we have a 3-conductor to a 4-pin field connector. Why is it called a field connector? That's, here's why. Because you can use this to connect wires, cut wires, and or make connections out in the field. They're not molded like this. This comes from the factory. This is molded. This connection's molded to the cable. It comes from the factory. It's not a field connection. It's already made from the factory and comes delivered that way, right? Okay, so now that's why it's called a field connector. Okay, so now if we follow the pin out and the coloring, we land it at in the right pins. There are 4 pins, and the thing about this, on the top of here, it tells you 1, 2, 3, 4, the pin outs, right? Gives you the numbers for each pin. We just assemble the components, right? That's all we do. Then what we do is we secure it. Now it's nice and secure. It's not coming loose, right? Nice in there. Then in this case is the M12, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We make our connection, and if I'm lucky, and I can get these. These generally aren't complicated. They go right in. But if you begin to cross thread it, you'll sense it. It gets tight. Well, boom. Okay, so now we're in there. Now this device will just be located near this, and here I got, I don't know, 10 feet, 15 foot of cabling, but my machine may need to make a long winding path all the way down to the PLC, and I don't have to run all these cables, all 8 devices, all the way back down there. I just have these 8 cables going to a locally located proxy block with 1 cable going all the way back. That's it. That's how simple it is, right? That's the genius of this proxy block, okay? All right, so now let's go back to our pre-molded cable. So we have an M12 and M8, different sizes, are your general sizes, okay, M12. Okay, in this case, I can buy this cable pre-molded, or I could cut this and use a field connector if I have some reason why I would want to. Got my cables here, and I can hook them right up to my sensor wired in, run it in through, and then take my M12 and hook it right to, in this case, this would not be the right connection, but with the right connector, I can connect it right to my proxy block and then run 1 cable all the way back. In this case, yes, I could use this at the top and run this all the way back. So I have 1 cable. This is not the appropriate cable for the top, but I'm just using an example, okay? Trying to set an example and explain how this works and why it's really genius. And the M12 is just for a smaller cabling, smaller device. Nothing more. Nothing more. Now, a lot of times when you're new, you work building a new machine, you'll buy a bunch of these field connectors. This is a Belden setup, and it comes with a couple of different options. Now, I talked about the variation of the field connectors, and they come in all different kinds of designs, right? This one comes with 2 grommets for 2 different size cables, right? And you can put 2 cables in there. You can you have the body, right? The body parts that go together, and you have the top part, and you have a washer. So what you do is you just put the grommet that you want to use to run the cable through. I'm going to put that washer in there, and I'll put the body there. So basically, I have the cap here, as you tighten it, won't push into the grommet endlessly. That washer will keep it from going too deep. Right? The spare grommet I don't need, so I'll just set that aside or throw it away or save it for another project. And then I'll just put the top in. I run my cable through there, right? Before I close it up, put it in here, wire it at the top here, right here. You might not be able to see it, but there are numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you follow the coloring guide from the print, then you can't go wrong. And that's how simple it is. And it'll be nice and secure, just like this one is, right? Not too complicated. And you'll just land them in your proxy block, just like this, right? And then you have 1 cable that goes all the way back to your PLC. Or you may need a master. I think this is a slave. But there may be a couple. It just depends on the configuration. But let's assume this one is a master. And I don't remember if it is IO Link. But it'll run back to your PLC. Okay, so I mean, really is that simple, and that's that genius. That's that genius of it. Now, these field cables are great because you can buy it without the connectors, have pigtails on both ends. That'll work, and you can wire all kinds of devices in. Use a field connector and then put it right in your proxy block, and your proxy block right out to your PLC. Very simple. Okay, very simple. It's your, whatever your I/O blocks are in your controls panel. Okay, so whatever the configuration is, the thing I want to share with you is the concept of a proxy block. The other thing to share with you again is to look at the print, the layout on the print. This is it's very simple. It's all laid out. And you just got to wire, use the OEM data sheets and configure your devices. If you're putting something together and first time you haven't never done it before, then just follow the OEM wiring standards that they recommend, and you can't go wrong. It's very simple, very easy introduction, really. It's just an introduction. You'll have to do this a few times to get the feel and gist for it, but it's just an introduction to proxy blocks. Now, when you go out in the field and you see these devices, and you'll now understand what's going on, and at least a basic introductory idea of what's going on and why they're there and how they're used. All right. Nothing more, very short and simple. All right, so this is Paul with Logix Magazine. If this is your first time here, subscribe, my friends. We really would like you to join our Logix Magazine team. Hit the bell, and that way you'll be notified every time we put out a video. All right, so until next time, this is Paul with Logix Magazine. Keep programming, my friends.